Good morning and Shavua Tov. Yesterday, the Jewish world and all good people around the world were overjoyed with the unbelievable news of the rescue of 4 of our hostages who have been in captivity for 8 months. But while we rejoiced, there were those who were not rejoicing. Last night after Shabbat, I turned on my phone to see more details of the rescue. When I turned to CNN, the headline said, over 200 Gazans killed in IDF raid to rescue hostages. Instead of focusing on the bravery and the miraculous rescue of 4 hostages, instead of focusing on the evil of Hamas that puts hostages in civilian populations, risking not only the lives of the hostages, but the lives of their own men, women, and children, the headline reverses the reality to focus on the fact that the Hamas Ministry of Health, a very reliable source, says that over 200 Gazans were killed in the raid. It's interesting that we're going to celebrate Shavuot on Wednesday and Thursday of this week. And on Wednesday morning, Jews around the world will gather in synagogues to hear the 10 Commandments as they were given 3,336 years ago at the foot of Mount Sinai when the Jewish people gathered to hear the 10 Commandments from God. These 10 Commandments are the basis of human morality. And the 6th commandment says, thou shalt not murder. And the 8th commandment says, thou shalt not steal, which our rabbis tell us doesn't mean stealing money, because there's a verse in Leviticus that's saying you shouldn't steal money, but it means kidnapping. Hamas violated 2 cardinal sins of the 10 commandments, that of murder and that of kidnapping human beings. Now it's interesting, the Torah says, lo tirtzach, you shall not murder. It doesn't say you shouldn't kill, because sometimes killing is justified, like in self-defense. Not only is it justified, it's a mitzvah to kill the murderer in order to defend the innocent people. And therefore, the commandment is lo tirtzach. We as a Jewish people have lived by these commandments throughout almost 4,000 years. But we will obey the 10 commandments and never murder or kidnap innocent people. But we will go after those who murder our men, women, and children, innocent people, on a Shabbat morning in their beds. Civilians, peaceful civilians, who tried time and again to live in peace with their neighbors in Gaza. We are so proud of the IDF, who risked their lives and prepared for this operation for weeks, building models of the communities that they were going into to rescue their Jewish brothers and sisters. And most of all, the commander, our known Zamora, who laid down his life, age 33, leaving behind a wife and 2 children, to rescue 4 of his brothers and sisters. He gave his life to give life to these 4 hostages. And Israel renamed Operation to Operation Arnon, to honor his memory and his bravery, his courage, and his sacrifice. This past week was D-Day, 80th anniversary of the invasion of Normandy. If not for those brave soldiers, Hitler would have conquered the world and destroyed the entire Jewish people and the entire free world. And we honored those courageous soldiers 80 years later. But there's a remarkable story that happened. There is a woman who lives in Philadelphia. Her name is Samantha Baskind. And Samantha always grew up hearing stories from her father about his uncle, Uncle Nate, who was in his 20s, landed on the beaches of Normandy, and was captured and killed behind enemy lines. And he was a great American hero. Well, a year ago, a Rabbi, Scheiner, Jacob Scheiner, was visiting Germany, and he saw a memorial for Nazis, officers who were killed in World War II. And he was looking at the names, and he sees the name Nathan Baskin, and he says, that sounds like a Jewish name. So he starts to do research, and he finds the great niece in Philadelphia, Samantha Baskin, and discovers that it was her great uncle. And he was accidentally buried with Nazi officers. This American Jewish soldier who went to fight the Nazis was buried with the Nazi officers. And after a year of excavation of the grave, they positively identified the remains of Nathan Baskin through DNA testing with Samantha and her family members. And he was interred and will be reburied on June 23rd, which was the day he was killed 80 years ago. And he will be buried in the American Servicemen Cemetery in Normandy. Amongst all the crosses, he will be buried with a Magen David, with a Jewish burial that he never received 80 years ago. And his family and the U.S. Army will fly there to honor him 80 years later. And the family, Samantha, was visited by the U.S. Army representatives who presented her with the medals of her great uncle Nathan Baskin, including his Purple Heart medal. This is the story of the Jewish people. We never leave our brothers and sisters behind in enemy lines. Of course, if they're alive, but even when they've been dead for 80 years, we come back to get them and we bring them home to the Jewish people. Have a wonderful day.